We're going to control them, and that's that. Like, this is already finished.
Oh my God! No, when you leave a meeting like that, what do?
You go endorse Donald Trump.
Oh, the communistic hell that could have been. We dodged that bullet. Welcome back to the JP Reacts channel, my beautiful freedom-loving friend. This is where we like to call out lies, hypocrisy, and corruption, and highlight the amazing work of other freedom fighters because truth conquers. But to stand for truth, you gotta be strong, and here to help us do it is Ancestral Supplements grass-fed beef liver. Beef liver is nature's multivitamin. It makes your metabolism fast, energy high, and cravings low. It is time to get healthy and strong with beef liver. Go to ancestralsupplements.com/JPReacts and use discount code JPReacts to get 15% off your grass-fed beef liver. Let's get into it. I think sometimes finding gratitude means we look at what could have been to help us better appreciate the relative heaven on earth that we're experiencing. You look at the hell on earth we could have experienced, you look at how bad something could have been. That can help create more appreciation and gratitude for what is. Now, certainly, maybe like yourself, I have a lot of gratitude for how the election went, who's leading the charge. And I think it's important that we never take it for granted because lessons in life and American history that are forgotten are unfortunately repeated. So we're going to take a little gander at some of what could have been. And there is a shocking clip from the Joe Rogan podcast about how communistic things would have been so fast. But before we get to that, let's take a look at people who are maybe not feeling gratitude, but they're maybe feeling grief at losing what could have been. They could have been unburdened by what could be, but luckily that is not to be. So instead, they're grieving the reality that is. So let's check in with our resident liberal correspondents on a beach in Wisconsin doing scream therapy because of apparently a dictator who was just elected. It's amazing. You can see one man in the bunch. Correction, no men in the bunch. This is mature. Not just mature, but effective. Then of course you gotta circle up. This is probably all the people. I know. Wisconsin, and now they're going swimming. I don't know. Maybe they're going out to drown themselves. I hope not. But nonetheless, we're doing the opposite of scream therapy. We're doing gratitude therapy. So I was blown away by this clip I saw on Joe Rogan's podcast. Kind of economic genius Marc Andreeson was on recently. And before the election, he had meetings with the Biden administration. And that turned him into a Trump supporter. What turned him into a Trump supporter is the Biden administration was telling them about how businesses were going to be run and you might as well not even start a business because we're going to control everything. It won't be worth you starting a business. That is the Biden administration telling Marc Andreeson, we are doing complete communist control. It's just like China does. Now, you might say, well, Biden wasn't running. Yeah, the people that run Biden were running. So whatever you got with Biden, it would have been the same with Kamala, only worse because they take an inch at a time. They take an inch of freedom. They take an inch of free market capitalism and erode that so they can install communism. So take a look at this rather shocking clip of Marc Andreeson's firsthand experience with the Biden administration.
The AI thing was very alarming. We had meetings this spring that were the most alarming meetings I've ever been in, where they were taking us through their plans, and it was
like what kind of? Can you talk about it?
Basically, just full government control. Like
that's communism.
This sort of thing. There will be a small number of large companies that will be completely regulated and controlled by the government. They told us. They just said don't even start startups. Like don't even bother. Like there's just no way. There's no way that they can succeed. There's no way that we're going to permit that to happen.
Wow.
Yeah. They said this is already over. It's going to be 2 or 3 companies, and we're gonna control them, and that's that. Like this is already finished.
Oh my God! Yeah. No, when you leave a meeting like that, what do?
You go endorse Donald Trump.
Oh, the living hell of communism that we missed just by, well, quite a bit. Kamala lost by a significant margin. My friends, this is probably the biggest news story of my lifetime, this comeback victory for President Trump. But if you're like me, you realize there's a very strong liberal bias in the media. You probably have concerns of selective reporting around Trump, if not outright lies. And then throughout his presidency, how will he be portrayed by the leftist media? We know we can't trust mainstream media. That's why I'm here on Ground News, and you can check it out at ground.news/JPReacts, where you can get 50% off unlimited access to Ground News using my link. So check it out now. I want to show you something. New York Times Media Matters strong-arming YouTube to silence conservatives, Ben Shapiro claims. Now check this out. Along with the story summary here, you can sort the articles on this topic based on publications that lean left. You also see who's funding it. And an example of a politically biased left article on this topic from the Daily Beast. YouTube allowed and profited off election denialism. And you can see, yep, definitely leans left. So you'll know, okay, anything coming from a left-leaning publication is going to have that political bias to it. But Ground News also lets you sort articles based on what publications lean right. And you can see these articles have very different titles than the left-leaning one. For example, Ben Shapiro, New York Times Media Matters pressuring YouTube to demonetize and penalize conservatives. So you can read both. You see what the headlines are, the titles of the articles. The beauty is, you get to make up your own mind rather than being deceived because you don't know where your news is coming from. Only Ground News offers that. So if you want to be informed with none of the deception, go to ground.news/JPReacts. And when you use my link for a limited time only, Ground News gives you a full 50% off unlimited access. Check it out now. Let's take a gander at the leader-in-chief that never will be, but could have been. We could have been unburdened by what would have been. We were burdened by something even more. So this was going around a few days ago. You would have seen it. And this is Kamala Harris giving what might be one of her first public addresses after a conceding speech. And by all rights, she appears to be incredibly hammered.
I just have to remind you, don't you ever let anybody take your power from you.
Don't you?
You have the same power that you did before November 5th, and you have the same purpose.
Now, she was going on incoherently about power. You can tell what matters most to her, and she was either hammered or incredibly sleep deprived. I don't know. But what's more important is the internet had their way with these clips of Kamala Harris. So let's take a look at some that are, I would dare say, very patriotic in nature.
Don't you ever let anybody take your power from you. You have the same power that you did before November 5th. And you have the same purpose that you did.
Does this woman need therapy? Well, the internet thinks so. So leave it to the therapist from Good Will Hunting, Robin Williams, rest in peace. But back at it for an appearance in this Kamala direct-to-camera video.
And I know this is an uncertain time. I'm clear-eyed about it.
It's not your fault.
I know you're clear-eyed about it.
Clear-eyed.
And it feels heavy.
It's
And
not your fault.
I just have to remind you, don't you ever let anybody take your power from you.
It's not
You
your fault.
have the same power that you did before November 5th.
It's not your fault.
And you have the same purpose that you did. Stands to take your power from you.
It's not your fault.
Well, it is her fault. And Benny Johnson weighs in with the Trump effect before running against President Trump and after. Oh, looks like a little stressful endeavor for her. I think part of the living hell that could have been that we should be so grateful that we are not experiencing is the vast amount of lies from Kamala, the Biden administration, the people that run them, where it's just constantly lying to the American public about every little thing, whether it's through gaslighting, omission, outright lies, 1984 doublespeak, and going around is a clip from a gentleman. Sorry if I misgendered him. He's a white dude for Harris, so I should say from this woman who is part of Kamala's HQ in her campaign, who admits, in spite of what they were telling the public, Kamala's up, she's doing good. She was never up in their internal polls.
When we got in, my recollection is some of that snapped back, but we were behind. I mean, I think it surprised people because there was these public polls that came out in late September, early October, showing us with leads that we never saw. I mean, it was just basically a race that in the battlegrounds was 46-47, 47-48. So that's not where we started. We started behind. She was able to climb out. I think even after the debate, we might have gained, 0.51. It wasn't a race that moved a lot. And so I think when you think about our own internal analytics, if you have Wisconsin at 47-47 or Pennsylvania 48-47 Trump, let's say, which I think is where we had it at the end, you've got to have undecided break your way more than your opponents. And you've got to get a little benefit from turnout, which we weren't able to do.
So he's definitely saying the quiet part out loud of, we were showing she was behind the whole way. But if you listen to Kamala's campaign, not to mention the mainstream media, you would have been, led to believe something different. Wow, she surged ahead in Trump quite a bit. That's interesting. But ladies and gentlemen, I feel like everyone in America has just been through a vicious year-long custody battle, and the verdict is in. Daddy won custody, and we should be grateful for it because this drunk stepmother could have been the one that won custody. So let's count our lucky stars. With that said, my beautiful freedom-loving friend, let me know your thoughts about this in the comments below. For reading them, also look forward to seeing you on our next video. But until then, stay grateful.